treason matters when we're standing on our rights.
Okay. So the purpose of the book really is to bring back the law to the citizens. It's really about, we've kind of gotten into this thing where we pretty much think that like our government just runs around ordering us what to do. And then if we disobey, then we can be charged with a crime or something. But the actual truth is that the law is designed for the citizens so that we can move through life and we don't have people stopping us and, you know, whatever, physically assaulting us or, you know, just getting in our way, stopping us from doing whatever it is that we need to do. We're the ones that pay the bills around here. So if we don't do what we want to do, then nobody's going to get their bills paid. So it's really about bringing the law back to the people. So treason, I mean, treason is something that people will use. Like a cop will call another cop a traitor if he doesn't back the blue line, right? But the actual truth is that treason is when you specifically take part in wars against your own people, such as, you know, the drug war, the CPS war, the, you know, the teachers and their war on your education. Essentially, they want to be in control of it. They want to make sure that nobody's getting around you saying anything that sounds, you know, like freedom or anything like that, because they're too busy taking that for themselves, you know.
Right. Sure.
So treason, you know, it's a big deal because it's a capital offense, right?
Right.
Whether we
sure.
agree or we disagree with the penalty, like someone thought it was pretty serious at some point. You know, the most serious thing in life, to tell you the truth. And it might be. The more of these people that we have running around believing that they can just push you, they can hit you, they can yell at you. Don't worry, but if you say anything, it's disorderly conduct. But if you know, if they yell at you or push you out of the building or any of that stuff, they're just like, well, yeah, but I'm part of the Just Us criminal crew over here. I don't commit crimes because I'm part of them. And it's like, come on, man, that's basically like the very first step to morality is understanding that it's not about which person is doing the act. It's more about, is that act okay to do to a person? And if it's not, then it's not okay for basically anyone.
Right. Is it moral? Is it honorable? Would be my two things to put on it. You know, if it's not whether or not we can do it, it's should we do it? Or is it a thing that is okay to do? And no, you know, it's not okay to put your hands on somebody and throw them out of a building just because you feel entitled, you know, which is what I get from all these public servants, you know, and of course, you know, from there, it just gets worse and worse until you're talking about ruining families, harming people, and deleting people, which so far this year, last time I checked, I think it was 400 and something of us deleted by the cops. And a certain percentage of that number, you know, those people are probably innocent, unarmed, and don't have a criminal record. They just got on the wrong end of a criminal cop who has an itchy trigger finger and probably a jacket this thick of complaints. Right. But we're not just talking about cops. We're talking about teachers, any politician for the most part. Maybe 24% of politicians across the country are straight and doing their jobs right. But they don't, just like the good cop, they don't last for very long, or they don't stay good for very long, or they leave, you know, because they can't get anything done. Okay, so
to me, the distinction is between really it's about how you're paid, and it's about socialism.
Absolutely.
So I really do a crash course in politics at the beginning of my book, because if you don't know who these people are, you're not going to fill in the blanks. You have to know that there's a distinction. There's a separation between us. Some of us are capitalist Americans trying to, you know, feed our families and stuff like that. We're paying all the bills around here, so we got to get it done. And then there's these other people, and they draw their pay from society, and they are socialists, regardless of how they vote. They're de facto socialists, meaning that in the facts, their activities are that they are a socialized entity paid for with public funds. It doesn't matter how they vote. It matters what they are to me. And then they have this serious tendency of collaborating with the other socialists. So we've literally got this team of people on one side, and then we've got a bunch of just individuals out here, trying to make it work for themselves, trying not to get screwed over. But the absolute truth is, we're not on a team with anybody except for, maybe your own family or something, whatever you've created. But these guys have got this giant team, and they're basically everywhere. Most people don't really understand that they're looking at a different group of Americans, or whatever you want to call them. I don't consider it American to be a socialist, because our country was designed to be capitalist, which is great because there's all sorts of things baked into capitalism that solve problems. But the thing, like for instance, producing in order to earn your own way, that solves a bunch of problems, because now people can buy your stuff. Now there's, this new product, and everyone can start utilizing it and benefiting from it. But socialism doesn't have that baked in benefit.
It's not productive. It's parasitical in nature.
Right.
And how, like you say in treason, how am I supposed to compete when I got to buy all these permits from this club over here and then pay them a shitload of taxes to support them, to put more requirements and regulations on us, more restrictions? A license to get your dog, a license for your bicycle when you're a kid, a license for your RC plane now, right? Drones, that's coming next probably. A license for your car, a license to be a plumber, a license to drive a car or fly an airplane. To go scuba diving, you got to get a license. To fish, we have to pay for everything that we do. We have to pay for extra to these scumbags who do nothing. All they do is shuffle paper around and make up rules to screw us over and harm us financially and physically, because they are also, the pigs are just the enforcement wing of those parasites. They're all hand in glove, man.
Right.
So how do we take back those rights from these parasites peacefully? How do we do that? Do you think that the auditors, are they having an effect, do you think? Hendry and Phylax just yesterday got both of their cases dismissed or thrown out or whatever. They're done. They're done with theirs. But we got Chili, who's in jail, and there's L. Jaws, he's in jail too. There's another dude down in Texas, I can't remember, he hangs out with Harvey Freeberg. Do you think that we can do it peacefully, is the question? Can we take back our rights from these traitors, these, soldiers in an occupying illegal army in our country? Can we do it peacefully, do you think?
I think that peaceful is actually the only way to really accomplish it, because as soon as someone's violent, then it becomes pretty much well understood by the public psyche that they're bad. And because of that, they're not going to gain the support that is necessary to, to do anything. They're not even going to have a chance to make their argument if anybody gets violent, because they'll just get whatever, whacked or beat up, thrown in jail, end up in prison. You'll never even hear from them again. And, more importantly than that to me is that I think that honestly, what most of it comes down to, I think that people are somewhat good, but they're actually so dumb that we're constantly making just the worst decision you could possibly make. And that's how it is with these cops. They come out of the army at 22 or something like that, and they're like, well, I need to get a job. And it's like, dude, basically, you've made two choices in your life, and both of them were bad. Joining up with socialists at all is bad, and then doing it twice, again, bad. But so what my work is about is communicating very clearly that it's them that is creating the problem. And that's why I arrest cops. I'm at 20 public servants that I've either arrested or filed criminal charges on. And that's including my sheriff, my chief of police, arrested a lieutenant, several sergeants, several patrolmen. And basically, like, because I keep doing it, they're starting to realize, like, hey, wait a second. These things that he's talking about, he's not just making them up, you know? Like, it's clear that you've done wrong if you've committed a crime. And so that's why I arrest on crimes. It's like, hey, you've committed a crime. In fact, our whole legal system is to be designed the way I use it exactly. And that's why it's so weird that nobody else is really doing that in terms of using citizen's arrest, in terms of making it clear that you're not the guy. Like, they think, oh, my job as a cop, that means what? My job is to be a good guy, and you're a citizen, that means your job is what? To be a bad guy? No, it's probably going to be the cop that ends up doing wrong. You know, it's almost
guaranteed. Yeah, it's guaranteed they're going to do, like you say in the book, every traffic stop violates at least one of your rights. Well, at least. I mean.
Yeah. Let's go through a typical traffic stop. They're going to turn on their emergency lights.
Right, which means there's an emergency. Right, what's the emergency?
So just to start with, we're dealing with he's at least dishonest, or he's at least kind of manipulating his tools so that he can use them however he wants to use them.
Right.
And then he gets you off to the side of the road. He doesn't have a warrant to seize you. It's very clear in the Fourth Amendment that you need a warrant to seize or search anyone.
But
there's a word in there.
It's very specific. The Fourth Amendment is very specific about warrants, and rightly so. You know,
it explains how you can get a warrant. An injured complainant needs to sign a sworn statement to the judge, and then the judge determines probable cause on that, because you need that elected judge in order to determine if there's a crime. Now, cops these days, they think, oh, I saw someone going 10 over. That means that I have probable cause. No, it doesn't. You're not qualified to make legal determinations. You're not a lawyer. You don't have an education in the law. Even if you did, that education would tell you to stop. Because, for one thing, you have a Sixth Amendment right to face your accuser. Most charges can be dismissed immediately just by bringing this up in court. Just by bringing it up and moving for dismissal. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to give legal advice. I'm just talking about the law.
Right.
And when you get into a courtroom like Chile, like what happened to Chile, there was a cop in there. And guess what he is? He's a witness. Well, who's the complainant in Chile's case? There wasn't one.
Right.
So all he really needed to do was move for dismissal and have the case thrown out, dismissed with prejudice, so that it can never be brought up again. But people don't realize that, like, these rights, they're going to violate all of them. And then it's up to you to stand up and object and say, no, I have a Sixth Amendment right to face my accuser. Where's my accuser at?
Right.
You know, if you look around the court, it's like, hey, who's got a problem with my actions? Is it just this guy that works for me? Because that's a problem. He's not a complainant. He couldn't get a warrant, even if he went to the judge and knew to get a warrant. He'd be like, yeah, this guy was speeding. Okay, so who signed your criminal complaint? Nobody. Right. So you don't have anything. You can't get a warrant, even if you did know what you were doing. But, you know, they're just so ignorant that they feel entitled to go ahead and pull you over and then bring up their problems to you. Like they have a First Amendment right to seek redress of their grievances with you. It's completely back. We have the right to seek redress of our grievances with our government. They don't have any rights with us. Rights go one way. We have them with our government. They don't have any with us.
Well, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was written to protect us from an expansion of tyrannical government in the first place, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, they can't turn around and use it on us. It's not,
Right.
it doesn't work that way. So
then he gets up to the car. Let me finish with the traffic stop story.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so now he's got you seized on the side of the road. He's going to call it something like detained. You're detained. Is detained a legal term? No. So what is there? There's seized from the Fourth Amendment.
Right. Seized.
That's all that exists.
Yeah. Arrest is not even a legal term, is it?
No, it's a seizure. If you use arrest, it's kind of sneaky. Why aren't you just using the term seizure?
Right.
And the cops, they do this on purpose in order to seize you without that warrant.
Of course.
If they start using the word seize, then everyone's going to put two and two together and be like, hey, wait a second, there's a problem here. Okay,
right.
So now he's got you seized on the side of the road, which is a violation of your Fourth Amendment. You're supposed to be securing your person.
At all times.
What's he going to do? Yeah, from your government, you might have some guy get into your car and rifle through your stuff, but not your government. They're the ones that don't do that, at least, in theory. So,
well, in the reality of the law, they can't do it. According to the law, they can't do it unless they meet that standard of having a warrant.
Right. They're not smart enough to determine probable cause anyway, so it has to be the warrant. There's only one way to go about this. And it's not just, oh, this dude got a wild hair, and he decided that I wasn't secure in my person's house's effects. None of that. And so he went ahead and seized me, and now I'm in jail because it's just some idiot with the wild hair, That's like a real fundamental part of our society is that one guy just doesn't get to make up, like, whether you end up in a cage or if you're, free to go about your life. It's not just some dude, and it's certainly not just like one of our servants. So he's got you seized on the side of the road. Now he's going to start asking you for documents. Well, am I securing my documents unless you have a warrant to search or seize them?
Right, Fourth Amendment again.
So why are you asking me for my documents? Because they're getting you to consent. They want you to consent. They could run your plate in most cases and just get your name, but they don't do that because they want you to be seen as willingly handing over your documents and consenting to what they're getting ready to do to you.
Right.
Whenever I see one of these audits and they hand over their documents, I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's really cringe, man. You only win when the pig walks away without getting his crack for that interaction. You make him go away without getting anything.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
But
he doesn't like it. Right. Sorry, what?
You have to know how to do it right, or else they're going to beat you up or take you to jail.
Right.
And
invoking every single right you got. If he doesn't like that you're securing your documents, tell him about the Fifth Amendment right to be free from testifying against yourself. Any information that's going to be used against you, you don't have to give him. So, how is this traffic stop going to finish up? He's going to ask you a bunch of questions that you don't have to answer. He's going to ask for a bunch of information about your identity and stuff like that you don't have to give. He's going to make you sign a thing that promises to appear. Do I have to sign it? If this is going to be used against me, then do I have to sign it? No.
No, that's compulsion. Yeah, it's compulsion. It's duress.
Right, it's under duress. And they are kings of this. This is the one thing that makes me think maybe they're not just stupid. Maybe they are straight up traitors in their hearts. It's not an accident. It's because they're actually pretty skillful at maneuvering around these legitimate points. They're pretty skillful at it.
Yeah. Well, one doesn't have to. Being deceitful and conniving doesn't require intelligence. It just requires a means to communicate and learn those tactics. That's all. And let's face it, manipulating people is a very base skill that we're all born with. We start doing it from the day we're born. We cry to get fed. So it doesn't take intelligence to manipulate or be conniving at all and be deceitful. You don't have to be bright to be a liar or a traitor.
Right. Yeah, they're working off a rule book that most of us didn't know. Now that we have the internet and we can kind of read up on some stuff, we can kind of look at other people's experiences. We're starting to get a little bit better, but it's still terrible. Like these auditors, every question they ask, I'm just like, what are you doing? Yelling at my TV, like, hey, because it's like, oh, what crime? This is a real big question they've got these days. What crime? What crime? Dude, that's not invoking your rights. That's not standing up for yourself, asking what crime. Don't even ask what crime. And here's the reason why. There are lots of crimes. None of them matter unless you created a victim. Unless there's a guy, a complainant, that's saying, that guy, he wronged me, it cost me this. Then there's nothing to talk about. So these auditors, they'll be like, what crime, what crime? It's irrelevant. Where's your warrant? Because that means that the judge already went through your probable cause, and now you're just an agent serving a warrant. We have really nothing to discuss,
Right. Right. If you got a warrant, fine. If you don't, fuck off.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not time for you to argue with me. It's time for you either serve your warrant or else we got no business together. A lot of these auditors are kind of luring these cops into these 20, 30-minute conversations, and it's all wrong. You need to issue some orders, lawful orders, like, hey, you're creating a disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. And then he either does it or you can go ahead and be the complainant now. See, that's one thing that the government does not like and cannot overcome is that we're all complainants if we want to be, and they are not for the most part. You'd have to commit a crime against a person, like to get, like, for instance, if you hit a cop, it's possible that maybe, he could be a complainant or something, right? Because you actually hit him. Of course, you're always going to argue that you were resisting an unlawful arrest or something like that, right? But in theory, the cop could be the complainant against you because he was actually injured. He's not just an agent of the state when he's standing there saying, this is the guy that punched me. He's being the injured complainant.
Right. He's
super rare.
Right.
It basically never happens.
Exactly, because the hitting an officer is like hitting the state, right? It's always the state versus blah, blah for assault on so-and-so officer, right? Well, if it was me and you and we had a fist fight, it would be different. The state doesn't just pick it up and say, well, you damaged the state because you punched, jackboot thug pigs in the face and you broke his teeth out or whatever. The state's not going to pick up that charge as against the state, right? It's them, you versus them in court.
Right.
Okay, so
now it becomes a matter of arguing your rights and arguing your position and stuff like that. But you're arguing against, you can face your accuser because you've got questions for them. Hey, How much did I damage you? Did you really even get hurt? Did you cause the altercation? You need to be able to face that accuser because of all these questions you've got for him. And the state it's always going to be like, well, I was there because I was told to be there. I was there bothering him just because someone said to, and it's not very legitimate.
Right. It's my job. No, it's not your job to. I think about that old lady up in the New England states who was a foreigner and she got beat up and maced by the cops on the side of the road for having a taillight out, man, and because she couldn't understand them. That's not their job. Their job is not to beat up old ladies and shoot dogs and molest little kids and do all the shit that they've been. Kennedy, did you know that 1,800 cops have been arrested, arraigned, and sentenced for SA or possession of CP since the first of the year? Did you know that?
I'm not surprised. They have a mentality that is pretty, like, pro, maybe like encroaching on other people.
Right. In every way.
What?
Right. In every single way, they encroach on us.
Right. So you can kind of tell that they have some sort of mental problem where they're like, they like it. That mentality of like, just like possessing people and stuff like that. It's like a rapist type of a mentality,
Right. Yep. Okay, so let's go back to the traffic stop. I'm sorry, I got us off track, but we knew that was going to happen.
Well, I mean, we're basically right at the end of it. From step one till the last step, every bit of it was just basically gibberish there to confuse you and pretend that you have no rights at all. And if you don't invoke those rights, then maybe you don't have any rights at all. We don't know. We don't know if that's right or wrong, but that is the way it is. You have to invoke them. It's not just, you can't ID me. No, it's be clear. I've invoked my Fourth Amendment right to be secure in my documents. Unless you have a warrant, show me your warrant. No, I'm not providing information that's going to be used against me. No, I'm not going to do it. In fact, don't even be questioning me anymore, because you don't have a right to seek redress for your grievances with me. I don't care. Anytime you have a problem with me or my actions, I want you to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I'm not your complaint department. I'm your boss. I'm not your complaint department. I don't want to hear it. Okay,
yeah, you'll notice I don't treat them like, with kindness and stuff, because I'm reminding them, like, this is not an equal conversation here. This is not a conversation between equals. This is a conversation with your boss. No wonder he's treating you like shit. He shows up, he finds out you're not pulling your weight here. You're sucking up money, and all you're doing really is basically committing crimes. I mean, every time I deal with the cops, I'm able to arrest them on a crime. I don't need a warrant to seize a cop. He needs a warrant to seize me.
Right, that's how the law works.
What?
He has to have permission to put his booger hooks on us.
Right.
Period. You don't just get to put these on us because you want to. Warrant. Fourth Amendment, right?
Right.
And it's also got elements of the Sixth Amendment involved in that interaction as well, because face the accuser. He cannot be your accuser even in public unless you've committed a property or personal crime against somebody else or the public property. Private property, private person, public property. You damage or deny somebody their rights or harm them, then you got a crime on your hands.
Well, we almost don't even need to know what all the circumstances are, because basically it doesn't even matter until a judge puts his stamp on it saying, now this matters. And once the judge does that, then we can have to start learning about what it takes to get the warrant and stuff like that. But as long as you understand that the cop can't be the one that just issues a decree, in America, all Americans are sovereign citizens. You can ask a person, hey, who's the king? And they're not going to be able to tell you, because there isn't a king in America. It's everyone. That's the point, is that you don't have a king over you. That's what America is. So every citizen is a sovereign citizen, even though they don't admit it, they don't realize it, they don't understand it. People like Brian Young from High Impact Flicks actually say things like, sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. It means sovereign, which means king, and then citizen, which means servant. No, citizen doesn't mean servant. A citizen is someone that lives in a city. So can a king live in a city? Sure. Can a lord or a duke or anybody live in a city? Sure, anyone can live in a city. So what is it that makes him a king if he's not all powerful? Well, what makes him a king is that he is a sovereign of his own. He's his own lord. He's his own commander. He tells himself what to do. No one else gets to show up and be like, no, you need to come work in my mine today, because he's a sovereign. And we use citizen a little bit wrong, because everyone doesn't necessarily live in a city. But we've taken it now, it kind of means just a citizen of the nation.
Right. Anybody who can get a passport, let's say.
No. You're already a citizen because you exist. It doesn't matter about what any pieces of paper say or anything. It's a person that lives in the.
We'll go ahead and say that the naturalization process is also a socialist scam in that case, right?
Oh yeah. Well, just look at the border. It doesn't even make sense.
No.
Take a look at this. A Mexican walks across the border And then there's Border Patrol agents that are like, welcome to America, give us your documents. What are you talking about? In America, I don't have to provide my documents unless you got a warrant signed by a judge. And then they'll be like, well, we got to check for guns and drugs. Really? Because I have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in my person, in my property. Even if you find a gun, I have a Second Amendment right to have it. Even if you find drugs, I have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in my property. I have a religious right to, marijuana specifically seems to be in the Bible, right in the first of it, at Genesis 1:29, and where we're instructed to use the herbs as meat, like something you consume. And so that makes it a religious right. But honestly, you can just decide in your head that you want to do opium or something like that, and that it's part of your religion. It's in your head. Like if you look at a drug like peyote, they actually give prisoners peyote, like in prison. They'll give them peyote and they'll be like, yeah, you can go smoke your peyote or whatever you do with it in the rec yard or something like that. And they'll take out like 5 or 6 natives that are going to smoke this peyote, and they'll do it right there in the prison because they have to provide for their First Amendment freedom of religion. And our Bible says...
That's crazy, man. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but that seems a little bit crazy.
The one with drugs has never made any sense at all. They've testified in front of Congress like, well, if somebody's out there smoking that wacky tobacco, then they're going to go and rape a white woman.
Yeah, there's no evidence of that, man. There's no, you know what a marijuana overdose looks like? It looks like an afternoon nap and an empty 2-liter and an empty bag of chips on the floor. That's what a marijuana overdose looks like. So they can't say it's pretty good, that you don't smoke this.
I agree with you,
ridiculous.
But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is specifically, okay, so is rape illegal? So what do the drugs have to do with this scenario? Rape's already illegal.
Right.
You don't need to illegalize drugs because they make people rape, because rape is already illegal. You know what I mean?
Right. It's dishonorable and it's amoral. So it meets our criteria for something that you shouldn't do, that would constitute a crime. You're committing a crime against somebody else's person. So you're right. Well, if I smoke a joint in my house and I walk across the street and the cop says, "Oh, you smell like weed," because I'm going to get my mail or whatever, and the cop says, "Oh, you smell like weed," I'm going to be like, "Yeah, so what?" But
yeah, exactly. You're going to get your mail. Sorry, what?
Who's harmed? No one. No one's harmed. Nobody's harmed. But but legalization is it's ridiculous that it has to be legalized in the first place. But anyway, it's happening, and
that's kind of a misnomer. It is legal already. You have a First Amendment right to freedom of religion.
Right.
It's legal already. Right. You have a Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your property. So if you have some weed, that's your property. You're secure in it. It's already legal. Just this legalization idea, it's faulty as the drug war illegalizing it in the first place was.
Right.
It was never made illegal. They just pretended that it was, and a lot of people fell for it. And it's still not illegal. It's still not a crime. It never was.
Right. And the pigs use it constantly as a crowbar to get around your rights. Constantly. The smell of marijuana. I wanted to go back to the sovereign citizen thing for just a second there and clear a couple things up. A lot of people have this Stockholm syndrome. You make that pretty clear in your book. You don't call it that, I don't think, but they're brainwashed into thinking, that sovereign citizens are bad, that being a sovereign citizen is a bad thing, when really there is no sovereign citizen, because we're all that. No one person is, like you said, we're kings of ourselves. And that's, you don't externalize that at all. You don't have to, because if you stand on your rights and you demand those rights, the there's this stigma around people who claim to be sovereign citizens and they do everything all wrong, right? And it makes everybody else think, well, being a sovereign citizen is a bad thing and all that. So we don't have to, we don't have to declare that we are. We already are.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody thinks.
To me, I'm very proud of my rank as sovereign citizen. What it means to me specifically is I know what laws can apply to me. What kind of a king doesn't know what he's allowed to do? A terrible king. He's going to make nothing but mistakes. He's going to screw up things. He's going to get, wars started or whatever if he's a king of a nation. If he's just a king of his own family, he's going to start problems with the neighbors. Like, it's not going to work out well, a king that doesn't know what his legal rights are. He's allowed to do some things, which I talk about this in my book. The king used to be able to do whatever, right? But at some point, the lords started saying, hey, wait a second. These guys are crazy as often as they're not. So why don't we put some restrictions on them so that they're not just executing people? And, we need to have a way to figure out, like, if someone's actually committed a crime instead of just some idiot being like, oh, well, I think you did, and I'm coming to get you, So sovereign, to me, a lot of it on the internet is crap. And it's always like, are you a Title 18 this and that citizen? And do you declare yourself a citizen? It's all a bunch of word game nonsense, mumbo jumbo. But the truth is, yeah, we're all sovereign citizens, even though these guys, they're not smart at what they're doing. They're always like, oh, yeah, you gotta claim that against your birth certificate. And, oh, yeah, the birth, get it? Like, you're landing a ship. It's like the birth of a ship. And it's just gibberish. It's semantic nonsense. And so now people have this idea of sovereign citizens like it's just gibberish because these people are gibberish. But the truth is, most people are gibberish. People do this thing I call American jib. And they'll do it sometimes for 80 years until the day they die. And they just talk gibberish until they die. And it happens their whole lives. Like, straight on through. Like, these audits that we watch, they're so bad. I'm just like, every word you guys are saying is wrong. Like, every single word. Because I studied law in school. And, I picked up quite a few things. Like, for instance, case law precedent. These auditors are out here calling it case law. And they're citing it like it's the law. It's not the law. It's precedent. Congress makes laws. The judiciary interprets the Constitution. So they can determine basically the two things. Is this constitutional? Is it not? That's essentially all the courts can do. They don't come out and say, well, this is unconstitutional and we're fixing it to now we don't use Fourth Amendment. Now we use Terry v. Ohio. No. Because you don't make laws. Okay? You're the judiciary. All you can do is interpret a law that Congress made. And you can say, it is constitutional. It is not constitutional. Those are the only two options. You don't get to start making up reasonable, articulable suspicion. I have dogs and cats. So what I say whenever I hear someone say reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime, I say arguable, or frogulable suspicion of a kiss, or even a cuddle if you want to kiss up on my dog. If you want to ducktain him, because it's just a complete joke. It's not the law. It's just some made up crap by the courts. Reasonable, articulable suspicion. And all these auditors are buying it, hook, line, and sinker. Did I say that right? Anyways, it's not the law. It doesn't hold the force of law. The judiciary doesn't make laws. And guess what? No one took an oath to case law precedent. No one. No one is going to enforce this crap.
It's just a decision. It's just a decision. It's an interpretation. Like you say, it's not a code. It's not part of the USC. It's not part of the federal code. It's just a decision. They're like the Pope. They're like the Pope, right?
Right. Yep. Making a decree or something like that doesn't make it into a law. It's just, just like the Pope saying something doesn't make a new law for everybody in the world. It's just,
it doesn't change scripture because the Pope says, well, it means this instead of that. That doesn't change the meaning of the words, which is important in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Lexicon is very important. You know, when I get pulled over, I do these things. I don't say hello. I don't say any of that. I say, I'm recording, and I say, this is a First Amendment police protest. I'm going to stand on my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and not be questioned any further as to incriminate myself. I stand on my Fourth Amendment right, which means you're not going to touch me. You're not going to touch my things. And now I learned today that the Sixth Amendment is a part of that. So I'm going to put that in there too. By the time I get to the Fourth Amendment, they're saying, have a nice night.
Yeah.
If I get pulled over, because they don't want to hassle. They want to get people that are going to sign that fucking bill and pay it or go to court. You know, recently, you know, I've had nothing but 100% success rate just doing that. I get pulled over for a loud muffler, and I did that exact same thing. And, you know, by the time I get to Fourth Amendment, have a nice night, drive safe, make sure you fix that. You know, there's no warning, there's none of this. Don't eat yellow snow. Don't cross the street without looking. Make sure you pick up your dog shit from the park. All these nonsense questions that they ask to. I like to call this the pig script that rolls in their head when they're asking all these questions. They're looking for one detail where they can say in their twisted, demented movie that's being recorded in their head, "You're the criminal. You're gonna go to jail now," or whatever. You know, that's why you stand on your rights, and then you shut your mouth. If they keep asking you questions, you say, okay, that's going to be the first attachment on a 1983, 240, or 242, or whatever. And they keep asking questions. That's another one. That's 3. You want to go for 4 attachments? That'll bring you to like 40 grand in a lawsuit. You want to keep going?
Right.
That's what I got to say to the pigs, man.
Let's look at that example you gave of your muffler being too loud.
Right.
Because to me, this is what being a sovereign citizen is. It's understanding when a law cannot be levied against you. It can't be used against you. So your example is a good one, loud exhaust. So first off, the state does have a law that's on the books that says your exhaust can't be too loud, right? Or whatever. And then, so that's true, but then you look at how it applies to you. What are they going to have to do to enforce this loud exhaust thing? Well, they're going to have to seize you on the side of the road. Do you have a right not to be seized?
Yes.
And so even though the law isn't necessarily repugnant to the Constitution and therefore null and void, it's not. It doesn't offend the Constitution at all until you start talking about how to enforce it, which is seizing you on the side of the road. So that's a huge part about being a sovereign, is that now you understand, sure, that law is fine, it can exist, but as far as does it apply to me? And most of them don't. Because in some way or another, you've either got a right to, your weapons or whatever it is that they're saying is illegal. And so because of that, it's null and void, which that is Marbury v. Madison. Even though you shouldn't really cite case law ever.
The pigs don't care anyway, and they're not listening. That pigs don't know how to listen or how to think. So they're not going to care. You start reciting case law, they don't care about that.
Well, but the thing is, you're always going to erode your point if you start citing something that's not a law. You're gonna start hurting yourself. You're gonna tell the cop, this is what these auditors do. They're like, you can't ID me unless I'm suspected of a crime. What? First off, that doesn't make sense. That means if you hand over your ID, that's essentially like admitting that you took part in a crime.
Exactly. Exactly,
that doesn't even make any sense at all. It's basically like They're choosing to put themselves under Terry v. Ohio. They're saying reasonable articulable suspicion is that's what they believe is the law. It's not, it's precedent, but they believe it. And so now they put themselves under that. Instead of, dude, it's like Chili. He's so worried about Terry v. Ohio that he didn't stand up in court and argue just his rights, just his constitutional rights, because he's got all this precedent in his head. Well, guess what? You can find a precedent for anything. The courts have done everything known to man by now. They have chosen that that is illegal, and it's also legal in this other case, right? They've done everything. So if you want to use case law, then you could prove any point you want to make. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean anything at all, in fact. But you can like make your little argument, and if someone's dumb enough to believe it, then maybe you won or something. But really, you just always go straight for laws that fall under Article 6, the Supremacy Clause.
Supremacy. Yeah, I was hoping we get around to that. And supremacy means higher than anything else. Yep. Better than anything else, more powerful than anything else. Not sometimes more powerful, always more powerful. Right. It's like a dragster with the throttle stuck wide open. Supremacy cannot be beat or caught or beaten down or changed. There's no way to circumvent that legally. Right. And according to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, which are all under the Supremacy Clause.
Right. Right. That's important. What is under the Supremacy Clause? It's the Constitution specifically, right. And then it's all of the amendments. Those all get the highest level that there is. And then below that would be like state laws. And then below that would be like city ordinances. And below that would be like some other stupid crap, regulations, policies, you know. That's what I wanted to address today too, was policy, because, you know, a lot of these public servant parasites, not just the pigs, but, you know, actual servants that all they do is produce paper. They don't do anything else. Let's be clear that these people that are public servants, unless they're like a city surveyor or water department or whatever, people that actually use tools in the you know, pursuit of doing their job, they're useless. All of these bureaucrats, you know, we have way too many, and they're useless. All they do is push around papers that for basically bullshit little policies that we think we have to abide by, but we don't, like a dog license or a marriage license or even a license to drive a car. We're not beholden to have any of those things. They can't make us do that. But, you know, people think, well, you're a sovereign citizen if you're talking like that. Well, we all are, man. You are too, but you just don't, like you say, you don't know your job. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the last 6 months, I've saved $530 by being a sovereign citizen, because I'm not paying for car insurance. I'm not paying for registration. Somebody's been taking that money from us. So someone out there is just living high off the hog by doing literally nothing. Right. I have never had a benefit from insurance. I've never made a claim or any of that stuff. I've never used full coverage. I've just bought cars and stuff. But, you know, at this point, I paid more in insurance than I have on my car. Of course. It's just stupid. I just stopped doing it. Just like, well, you know what?
It's blackmail. It's blackmail, man. It's blackmail.
Yeah, you're extorted into doing it under threat of violence.
Yeah, which makes it blackmail, right? Too. I mean, it's blackmail. Right. Oh, my God.
Yeah, policy, what I wanted to address there is policy applies to employees. That's it. It literally doesn't apply to anyone that doesn't work there. Nobody. Of course, if a private business has a policy, then and you break whatever their rule is, then they can just ask you to leave, right? And guys, they will arrest you for that. They don't have a warrant in most cases, which means it's fightable. But to tell you the truth, they would get a warrant if they knew what they were doing, because, you know, they've got that injured complainant, the property owner, and he's going to say in a sworn statement, I told him to get off my property. He refused to do it. That meets the, you know, trespassing. And so they would get a warrant, even though, they screw it up. But anytime they screw up like that, it gives you something to get your nails into and pry on. You know what I mean?
Right.
They see me without a warrant. At least now I can say that, and then I can argue that in court. It's kind of like with Chili. He let the cop get up there, and he didn't challenge him at all. Well, he had a lawyer, and that's not really a good idea. You'd have to be really dumb for a lawyer to do any better than you could possibly do. You'd have to be severely stupid for that to happen. But
right.
Chili's lawyer just lets this cop get up there and start slandering Chili with no challenge at all. Ask him, did you take part in the drug war? Dude, get him to admit on the stand guilt to treason. Get him to admit it. And then guess what? Is this guy going to testify against you anymore? Well, we can't have that. He's a traitor, right? No more testifying for you.
Right. According to the law, yeah, according to everything under the supremacy clause, which is the only thing that matters, he's a traitor. You're right, he's a traitor. And then he perjures himself in court. But when they lie in court, that's also a breach under the supremacy clause.
To me, if you catch somebody perjuring themselves, you got to understand no one's coming to your rescue. Not your lawyer, not the rest of these socialists around here. No one's coming to your rescue. If someone perjures themselves, dude, stand up and make the arrest. Check your state laws on citizen's arrest. Find out what you can arrest somebody for. Maybe even read a couple cases or something like that. Maybe find out a couple of laws. I call them contempt of citizen laws. So that's things like disorderly conduct, harassment, assault,
obstruction, interference. They use those.
Well, the cops do, but right. I'm talking about using them for us.
Oh, okay.
Obstructing you, I'm saying, go ahead and make the arrest. Check your state laws and stuff like that, because every state's a little bit different. You might need to find a felony before you can make your arrest in your state or something like that.
So when you make the citizen's arrest, you then become the complainant, correct?
Right.
And that's the only way to hold these pigs accountable, right?
It really is the only way, because now we're talking about criminal. So while these other auditors are out here like, I'm going to file a complaint on you, guess where that goes?
Yeah, it goes in the trash can, because the pigs are always going to cover the pigs because of the Just Us Club, which is also something that you go into detail in the book. But they all cover each other's asses all the way up to the governor.
All the way up. Yep, and beyond.
Oh, yeah, all the way up to Sleepy Joe or whoever happens to be, the current sock puppet.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, there was
citizen's arrest. It's huge. It's honestly, that's where the book Treason culminates, is in citizen's arrest, because it's like, that's the solution. That's the only solution there is. Because who gets to decide if I'm a complainant?
You do. Right.
Now, if I report to a cop, this guy committed a crime, I want you to arrest him, then he's going to be like, well, this is my socialist friend over here, so I'm just going to back him up, and we'll just pretend like he was never accused of a crime at all. Well, that's not going to work with me, because I'm going to place him under arrest myself. You can get sued for a bad arrest. Don't make bad arrests. You don't necessarily want to go hands-on with these people. That opens you up to all sorts of liability. You might get your head busted open, all sorts of stuff.
No, they could just shoot you on the side of the road. No. Well, they could just shoot you on. They could just shoot you on the side of the road and then make whatever question they want. So,
right.
The way I understand a citizen's arrest is, if you don't have video, you don't have any evidence. So you're recording, obviously.
Well, all you need to do is swear a statement, actually. You don't need a video or, these auditors a lot of times are showing cops their videos. You don't need to do that. You're swearing a statement. You're making a sworn statement that this guy committed a crime against you. And now so it's a sworn statement. It's no longer hearsay. Now it's sworn to under penalty of perjury. And so, if you make a bad statement, then you can be thrown in jail for, creating a false police report or something. But
Right.
you don't need evidence. You don't need proof. You just need to accuse them and make it clear, like, there's a person accusing another person here. I'm the complainant now. Now I become the complainant. Now we have a criminal case on our hands. And no one can deny that. No one gets to change that. The cops, they like to be judges, juries, all that, right? And they like to be like, oh, that's not legitimate. Like, dude, what are you, a jury? What would you know about legitimate? You shouldn't decide anything around here. You're a servant. You're just a servant. So in court, judges, they like to arrest people for contempt of court. Is that legal in any way? No. If the judge wants to be a complainant against you, then he needs to go find another judge to sign a warrant for him, because now he's just a citizen.
Right. So in other words, when a judge arrests somebody for contempt, they've automatically committed treason.
I don't know that would be taking part in wars against your own people, but you could definitely make a case for he had his freedom, stolen.
Right. It's a civil rights violation, at least.
War. Right. It can meet a definition. Honestly, they're all guilty of treason just because they have all collaborated with an organization that has taken part in wars against the American people. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about a librarian. If that librarian has been contracting with the government in the last 50 years, that is a traitor. It truly is. It meets the definition. She could be charged under RICO for everybody else, all the other traitors' actions, because you don't get to be part of a criminal organization and then pretend like, oh, I didn't do it. That had nothing to do with me. You're part of it. And because of that, they're already all guilty of treason. It's just, if you give aid and comfort to the enemy, you're a traitor. So they've definitely done that by working for them, right?
Right.
We know they're the enemy because they've declared war on us. Like, who does that, right?
Several times. I mean, you got the war.
Called it a war. The drug war.
Drug war on poverty, right? What's the other one? No Child Left Behind is a war. That whole, the federal mandate for these, whatever restrictions or policies that you have to do in the schools, that's a war as well. Right. Because the kids are coming out dumber and dumber because they're not learning any damn thing. They're only making it they're just able to get over the fence.
And honestly, not even that. The whole reason the cops have a job is because everyone's so screwed up. And who made them screwed up? The socialist teachers.
Yeah, the teachers and the government. The government.
So they get them from both ends. What do they call it? Cradle to prison pipeline or something like that?
Right, cradle to grave. Yep. LETZOTVO wants to know your opinion on the terrorist watch group visiting Chile in jail because of his broadcasts from prison, basically over the phone.
I didn't know anything about that. I mean, let's be honest. The government is constantly trying to put you on some sort of list, and guess what's banned is for them to be accumulating these lists about our politics.
Right.
That's not illegal. It's in the Constitution. It's I don't have the citation right off the top of my head, but essentially that's not their job to go around coming up with lists of who's doing what and stuff like that. That becomes a discrimination, right?
Right.
And honestly, it sounds like gibberish anyway. It's like he calls people on the phone and they stream it or something, don't they?
Or some, but I don't know if they're streaming it because I think that he's not allowed to be live. And I don't even know the statute legality of him doing that over the phone.
Yeah, you do. You have a freedom of press, and
freedom of
because
speech.
of the supremacy clause, that falls above any law that this prison could possibly make. It cannot possibly make a law that says he's no longer press, he can no longer stream or be pressed. They can't do it because now it's null and void. Secondarily, there's no complainant. Right?
Right. Who's the injured
party? Swear? Well, yeah. Who's going to swear to damages?
Right,
well,
right.
He was screaming, and that means I'm upset about it. I want to be the complainant. No, there's a difference between a complainer and a complainant, and it has to do with those damages.
No foul, no crime.
No harm, no harm, no. Yeah. It really is.
I got it wrong. Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's literally the whole confrontation clause argument is just, who cares, bud? And that's literally what matters. Who cares? No one cares. That's why you don't have a warrant signed by a judge based off an injured complainant's sworn statement of damages. No one cares. And that's the truth about basically 99% of what these cops are doing day in and day out. No one cares. And literally that means it's not even an issue.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, this has been enlightening. I'm still swimming against the current, man, to get to where I need to be mentally. It's obvious, but I think I got enough to keep myself out of trouble. I'm not a criminal. I don't do criminal activities like breaking into people's houses or doing highway piracy or beating up old ladies. I leave that for the cops.
Right.
Let them do all the real crime, and we'll just take pictures of it until they fucking stop doing it. They just. How do we make them stop, Kennedy? How do we make them stop?
It's number one. You have to be the complainant.
Be the complainant.
Civil complaints are nonsense. They just go in the garbage. You have to be the complainant. You got to file those charges. You have to say, hey, I'm the injured victim. The cop is the aggressor. Make it very clear. You understand, eventually all these cops are going to be Brady listed and in prison. It doesn't even matter if the cop gets charged or whatever, because what you've done is you've made a record of these guys committing a crime against you. Now it's all on record. I placed them under arrest. I filed the complaint through email. It's all on record. There's a never dissolving record of me and this crime that happened to me by these people. Now, who's going to arrest me? Seriously, if someone from this police department arrests me, you don't think that's going to be a little bit suspicious that I've arrested 20 of them and now they think that they're going to come back and honor their oath and enforce the law? No, it's not going to happen. They've already made their choice to violate their oath. It's already a fact. Go ahead, try and bring a crime against me. Who would even do it? I arrest them all as soon as I meet them. So, when we get into court, we're not going to be talking about their accusation against me. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to be too busy arraigning the cop. I already placed him under arrest, Your Honor. Now we're in court. I want to arraign him. Now we're going to arraign him. Dude, bro, we're not going to talk about your nonsense at all. We're going to get you in a jumpsuit, and maybe we can reschedule this arraignment for me, and you can tell everybody about how I'm the criminal while you're wearing your orange jumpsuit, in theory. Right? I mean, that's the only solution. What these other auditors are doing is going out there. They're being bait. They're just being bait. They're just dangling themselves in front of the cop, and then they just see what happens. And then if the cop commits their crimes against them, they let it pass. You can't do that. You cannot let it pass. You never, ever let it pass. It's a gift directly from God when you have PC on the cop that is trying to screw you over. That is so a blessing. Because now, guess what? Dude, the whole conversation's different. Now we're talking about his crimes. Let's get a restraining order on him. Let's get some jail time on him. Let's do a civil suit on him. It's all like it's all one-sided as a complainant. You really want to be a complainant. You truly do not want to be a defendant.
No, of course not. No, you don't ever want to be, because then you're just screwed.
Yeah,
you're at the mercy of you're at the mercy of that corrupt ass DA or PA or the judge and the cops and everybody else. When you're the defendant.
Right.
So when you do a citizen's arrest on these pigs and you say you did this, this, and this, and you write out a complaint, who do you take it to? Who has to sign that? Nobody? Or do you have to take it to
sign it?
Like, do you have to take it to a magistrate or something?
If you want to get a warrant issued to have the other cops go and arrest that cop, then yeah, you're gonna send it to a law enforcer, and he's gonna probably be the one that takes it to a judge. You could just email the judge if you want, though. You could email the DA. I have, and because of talking to all these different people, I have like dereliction of duty on all these guys that are hanging out at the office, such as the sheriff, police chief, and it's because they just refuse to honor their oath and do their job. They're going to back the blue line no matter what happens. They don't care what happens. It has more to do with that guy's wearing a costume. You're a real American. We're siding with the fucking traitor. So if you want, a warrant issued, then it's going to have to get in the hands of a judge eventually, and it's going to need to be sworn statement of damages. I was at the Social Security office. They kicked me out. I was just trying to accomplish my business, It cost me, a whole day. Now I have to spend another day to do this. And they did it for no reason. While they were there, they pushed me around. They, they did this, they did that.
Yeah, well, I think a couple battery charges. Right. Oh my God. Well, we're getting somewhere. I think we're getting somewhere.
You gotta be that complainant, though. These auditors are, a lot of times, they're just letting this stuff happen to them. They file a civil complaint, will not lead to criminal charges with these socialists because they're on each other's sides.
Right. They'll just throw it away, or they'll say, well, he didn't violate policy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right. And that's good enough for the judge, because there's no paper from you that says these assholes battered me. They violated my person. They violated my freedom of speech. They did this and that, and they were, they tried to put themselves in the spot of complainant, which they don't have the right to do in the first place, unless they are actually physically harmed. Right.
Right.
So, they can't. Yeah, we have to become the complainants. I get that.
Yeah, it's going to be impossible to employ a cop that has 30 criminal complaints. But if you have 30 civil complaints, you can employ that. You can hire that officer.
Right,
and basically, it's the only way to really stop them in their tracks, where it's just like, dude, your friends don't get to decide this. A jury does. Or a judge or whatever you decide.
Right.
You'll have the chance to defend yourself, but in my book, you're already guilty. You can sue me for saying that right now before you've been found guilty by a court, but you're going to lose if you're actually guilty. So, none of these cops have ever called me on my words and said, hey, let's sue this guy and shut him up. Because why?
Because they can't.
They don't want to prove. That's what they'd have to do. They'd have to go to a civil court and prove that they're not traitors. Or, the thing I'm talking about them. Like, call them a pedophile or something like that. They have to prove that they haven't been trafficking any children. And they can't do any of that. So I don't get sued for talking all the shit I want. Because they can't do it. They're scared to even try. They don't even want to try. It's not the same burden of proof in a civil court. He's going to have to prove it if he wants to sue me and shut me up. He's going to have to prove that I'm not telling the truth. And that's not possible. So
yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, Kennedy, look, man, it's been a great hour or so with you, and I hope we can do it again, because we got more to cover. But I have to get going. I got stuff to do. I appreciate your time, and hopefully, next time we'll be a little bit more on time. But it's all good.
Next time we'll do better.
Yeah, we'll do better next time. Thanks for your time, and thank you, LETZ. And it looks like Jeff Hates Pigs was here. I don't know if he still is, probably not. But Anyway, you have a good day, man, and we'll have to do it again. Like, I got nothing but time on my hands, so if you want to do another one next week, we can.
Yeah, I think that's probably actually a pretty good idea. We really should. My whole goal is to help people, and people are lost right now. Even the guys that allegedly know stuff are just lost. So
yeah,
I think it might be a good idea to get together some questions and do it again.
Yep. I'll make a post in the community. Like I said, man, I don't have very many followers, but we'll get together and do it again. And in between now and then, I'm gonna see if I can't find a way to get some more people subbed. I haven't really put any time into it, and it does take time. You got to put in the effort to get it out there. But because I'm not on Facebook, I lose a lot, man. Because Facebook is huge, but I miss a lot of opportunity because I'm not on there. I fucking refuse to take part in that platform. I just refuse to do it. Okay, thanks a lot, Kennedy. Thanks for coming, you guys, and thank you for your work. And everybody should check out Kennedy Walker's book, Treason. It's a good read, and it's a survival guide, man. It really is. If we're going to get our rights back, we got to be educated, and we have to understand words, and that's what we're trying to do. I think we did some of that today. We talked about that. But I really do got to go, man. I'm up against it. Thanks a lot, Kennedy, for being here. I appreciate you, and I will get in touch with you sometime over the weekend, and we'll make plans for next week. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, cool.
Later.